Welcome to Aware. We are dedicated to communicating information that inspires your positive growth and change. Are you interested in a peaceful planet? Are you interested in optimal health? Are you living with purpose? Are you enjoying your life? We realize each person can make a difference, and our mission is to empower your awareness. The choices that you make in every moment shape your life, and we encourage you to realize that you have your own answers and to always listen to your own truth. We invite you to stay aware.
Hi, I'm Lisa Garr, host of the Aware Health and Mindset series, where I get to speak with incredible experts about what our life looks like in this new normal. How do we adapt to and embrace change every single day, sometimes moment to moment? The changes that we see that are happening in our lives really, truly impact us on a much larger scale than we've ever really experienced before. So how do we deal with that? How do we learn solution-oriented techniques and at the same time adjust and adapt to change? So have you ever found that as you're watching the news or as you're experiencing these current unprecedented times that you find yourself being extremely sensitive? And this could be sensitive to the thoughts and the feelings of the people that you're watching on the news or to the people that you're sheltering with. Are you finding that maybe in the past, when you walk into a room, you feel the energy of a room, that you tend to be very intuitive and sometimes have a hard time setting boundaries because you really don't know where you end and the other person begins? Well, if this applies to you, you could be what psychiatrist Dr. Judith Orloff calls a highly sensitive person. And her news is, it is not your job to take on the world's pain. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me, Judith.
Oh, you're very welcome, Lisa.
I'm really excited about I've talked to you before about the book, but just because you have such a beautiful way of speaking to people who are empathic, who are sensitive, and not making them wrong, but actually this is a thriving part of your life and many people's lives that you speak about. Can you share with us what you consider a highly sensitive person?
Well, in my book, Thriving as an Empath, I have self-care strategies for highly sensitive people and empaths. And a highly sensitive person is somebody whose senses are super attuned, where you're sensitive to light, smells, sounds, touch, energy, stimulation. And an empath takes that a little further because empaths, and I'm a psychiatrist in practice in Santa Monica, and I'm an empath. And so I combine my traditional psychiatric skills with empathic abilities and intuitive abilities. And empaths tend to be emotional sponges where they take on the positive and negative emotions of the world into their own bodies until they learn self-care techniques on how not to do that. And so during the time of the pandemic, I know many of my empath patients, many of my highly sensitive patients, are feeling overwhelmed in different ways. They're overwhelmed by the news. They're overwhelmed by the increased negativity that's coming at us all the time in the collective. They're overwhelmed by having to stay alone, which is ironic because empaths love being alone, but they're wanting
very
high
ironic,
quality.
yes.
Yeah, it is. Is that because I know as an empath, speaking for myself, I always had, not that social a lifestyle, and I love being alone. But now I crave the hugs from friends and the smaller social circumstances that I've always loved. I just love so much more. They've been taken away. The tea you can have with friends, the hugs, the walks without a mask and 6 feet apart from them. So it's about being an empath and sensitive person during this time. Is about balancing your need for the alone time, which many empaths are getting and are thrilled about, by the way, but then balancing the need for social contact. The Zoom arena allows some kind of contact in that way. and certainly staying 6 feet apart and wearing masks and gloves, that helps. But it's a whole different energetic environment that we need to navigate now. And one of the most effective ways to feel the wholeness and feel the energy is to connect to nature. As empaths and sensitive people love nature. And so remember at night to look up at the stars. Look up and see we have a larger universe and magic and mystery all around us. And that as the
That
human
has been,
family,
yes, a beautiful opportunity to do that. As a sensitive person myself, I enjoyed the first couple weeks of the sheltering in place, but then it became challenging. Did you notice that?
oh yeah, definitely. It's different because as an empath, you feel, oh my God, finally the alone time I've been fighting for. Finally, people are quiet outside. No, finally, there's not all this traffic, which is so delightful in Los Angeles, in particular, to be able to walk or drive on the streets without traffic. But then things are changing a little bit because you want the human contact, you want to have the balance, and you're not able to do the structural things that I'm used to doing, as simple things like going to the gym, or getting my hair done, or take going for tea with a friend, all that. We yearn for each other now, and I think that's a good lesson for us. I think when we come back and are interrelating more in person, we'll have a greater appreciation. There are lessons to be learned from this time, and lessons of appreciation of friendship and love and the smaller things that we do together.
So yes, in the beginning, when we were all sheltering in place, it was nice to have alone time, and it was nice. It was quiet. It was so quiet, and the lack of traffic and not having to go anywhere or do anything was great. But it is hard for someone who is very, very sensitive, because I started to feel the people in the world that were suffering like it was a megaphone. It was so loud. It's calmed down a bit though now. How do you deal with something like that?
Yes, well, I agree with you, Lisa, that in the beginning, being alone was just an empath's dream. Being quiet, not having traffic, being able to be in nature, having the air clear up in Los Angeles. It was so amazing that after a while, now that we're into it, we're yearning for human connection. And I think the empaths are very attuned, like you just said, to the collective suffering in the world. Not that it hasn't always been there. No, we're just more attuned to it because we're focused on a pandemic, but there's always suffering on Earth, and empaths can pick that up. Generally, I think there's been so much more emphasis on suffering now, that empaths who don't know how to set the boundary and who feel that it's their job to take on the suffering of the world are taking it on. And so part of my work in thriving as an empath is to show people how to hold energy rather than absorb, because it is not your job to take on the suffering of everyone. It isn't. And I know that's kind of hard because empaths want to help. Empaths tend to be helpers and lovers and givers and have such big hearts. But you also need to practice self-care. And especially during this time of huge intensity of suffering, you have to learn how to hold your energy where you can hold the heart space for people and not
Yes.
absorb. So there's a
Yes.
distinction with.
That's what I'm noticing. Is so now to hold this energy it's enormous. How do you not get weighted down? What do you mean by holding it though? Maybe I'm thinking it's the wrong meaning.
Yeah, I'm talking about holding the energy of the heart. There's a 3-minute meditation in the book, a heart meditation, where you focus on the heart energy and feeling the unconditional love and the warmth and the serenity within you that then begins to trickle down your arms and your hands and out your energy field. And holding that loving energy, it goes out to the world. And it goes out indefinitely. The nature of subtle energy is that it travels and it goes to where it's needed. Like if you have a loved one who's suffering, 3,000 miles away. The best way to help them is to get into this heart space and allow the energy to go out and have the love go their way. But you don't push it, you don't do anything. It's not the ego is generating it. You're a vessel for this heart energy. And just by taking that time, 3 minutes only, once a day or more, I do it many more times a day, to tune into my heart, to hold energy for the person, which means create a loving field for them so they can relax, they can begin to heal at their maximal capacity, as opposed to you taking on their suffering, which isn't going to help them at all.
Right, but I love that because you can actually feel like you're doing something to help. And that if we can't be with our parents, or if maybe they're in assisted living and there's no visitors, you can really spend that energetic time connecting, and it feels like we're really doing something. Distance healing is a wonderful, wonderful idea. That is a great idea.
Yes, and empaths love energy. We feel things with our tendrils. So it's like holding something with 50 hands instead of 5. And so one of our great gifts is sensing energy and sending energy without absorbing. See, that's the key. You don't want to absorb all this suffering, because what happens, I know a lot of empaths who are absorbing it and they're a wreck. They're exhausted, they're anxious, they're depressed. And you need to, if that's how you're feeling now, and that's okay, you need to stop and begin again with centering yourself, coming back to your heart, and saying to yourself, return to sender. If you're picking up all of this energy, one of the mantras in thriving as an empath is return to sender. You just send the energy right back to wherever it came from. You're not amplifying it. You're just not taking it on in your own body. You're saying, it is none of my business to take this on. It is not going to help anybody to take this on. I'm going to practice self-care. And so many empaths have said to me, but I feel self-care now is selfish. There's so much need out there. I need to fill it.
Yeah.
And I'm here to say you don't need to fill the void. You need to do what you can. And when you're in a position to give, when you're filled up, it's so beautiful to be able to give when you're ready to give, and to not just give until you're empty and sick. You don't want to give to you're empty and sick. You want to keep replenishing the wells so you can give from the heart.
Yes, and that, especially when you don't know the answers, there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of fear. And that fear can be extremely heavy. And so you're saying return to sender in terms of the fear? Can you do that?
Your own fear, you can just put it out. It's not something you want to keep inside of yourself. This is really a time where it's a meditation on fear. I know a lot of us for many years have worked on releasing fear, but now is especially a time you can't afford the fear. The fear is going to eat you alive and is not going to help you. And when you let fear run amok, it will just eat you for dinner. And you don't want that. You want to say to the fear, I feel you. I'm in pain. I'm going to deflect the fear. The matrix of energy that's around us is huge. When you say return to sender, you just send it back out to the universe. It can hold it. This is an infinite container inside the human body. You don't want fear. You don't want the fearful thoughts. And they come up now, all the worst fears. What if I die? What if I'm alone? What if this? What if that? You know, these are fear speaks in what if language. And you have to say, no, you must have a pact with yourself. No, I'm closing the door to that. I'm breathing, and I'm going to literally use my will. And this is where the will is very helpful, to come in and say, I am here in this moment, in the now, I am okay. In the now, Lisa and I are talking. In the now, it's amazing. And there's nothing threatening me. And I'm going to stay in the now. Remember to appreciate all the simple gratitudes of life, as you've always done. And don't forget to do that now. What fear does is that it takes away those simple gratitudes. And so as an empath, you have to be aware of the energy of fear and begin to tame it always, even before the pandemic, we worked with this, a lot in the Empath Survival Guide and Thriving as an Empath. But now, more than ever, this is the time, and you want to wear things lightly, including what's going on here. There's suffering, there's death, but there's always been that on the planet. Maybe, it hasn't been in our backyard as evidently, but to me as an empath, I've always felt it. It's always everywhere. I mean, walking down the street, I feel people suffering. No surprise. We're here to work through our suffering. And this is an opportunity to love like you've never loved, to practice self-compassion like you've never practiced it, and know that we're all together. I mean, just you and I speaking, Lisa, and being on this show and connecting to all the viewers. This is incredibly positive energy, and I hope everyone can feel it as we're talking and take this with you when our show is over, to take the energy with you and to know we're all connected like this.
Yes, and we're going to do a little process so that you can feel that energy and maybe choose a loved one or someone you want to direct this energy to as well. I have friends who have lost loved ones and they couldn't get back for the funerals, and it's very it's incredibly different when we have to adjust to these new times in that way of not being able to have the right type of closure or connection with family when someone does leave. That's been quite challenging.
It's hugely challenging, but I want to say that the principles that we've always practiced are something we put into play now. We've been in preparation for times like this. Yes, it's hard, but minute by minute, as empaths, as sensitive people, you have to reconnect to yourself over and over again through meditation, through just taking some deep breaths. You don't want to hold your breath during this time. That sequesters the fear in your chest, and you don't want that. If you forget everything else, just remember, breathe out the stress. If you notice you're taking on the fear, if you notice that you're taking on somebody else's stress, you breathe it out, and you must be prepared to set very clear, healthy boundaries. I know with friends of mine who are a lot into the more of the drama of the pandemic and into, oh my God, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I have to stop them because I don't want to expose myself to that. Because fear, it's like throwing fire on straw. It just poof, it just everything catches. So I have to use my boundary setting techniques saying, that's not really helpful to me. Or if people want to send me these lengthy articles about the pandemic that I don't want to hear all the gruesome details, I just say, no, thank you. You see, so
yes,
I want to try
theories. There's different theories. It can be extremely confusing. There's not a lot of, it's very unclear as to the origin or the uncertainty of this particular virus. That you could go down a deep rabbit hole. And I do understand that. Now, what if somebody in your household is in that rabbit hole and they're trying to pull you in with them and you don't want to go?
Well, I know my partner sometimes says to me, I don't want to hear any more about the pandemic tonight. So he'll be able to say that to me. If I tend to talk too much about it at times. And if it's at night, he doesn't want to hear it. He wants to do other things. And so I listen. So if you're able to accept boundary setting from loved ones, or if you're able to say in a very loving tone, I'm feeling overwhelmed now, so I'd rather not talk about this. It's too much information for me. But using that tone, when you set boundaries, you have to do it short and sweet. You don't get into a big confrontation. You don't beg them. You don't plead with them. You just say, I'm feeling overwhelmed now. Thank you so much for honoring that. So you stop people, basically. You don't. Empaths err on the side of letting people go on and on and on because they're overly polite. And that's a big mistake now during this time.
Interesting. Yes. So you can keep the conversation short. You can set healthier boundaries. And you can also send this enormous amount of love to somebody who really does need it. And I'm wondering if you could take us through that process, because this really would be helpful. If there's anyone that you want to send an enormous amount of love and energy to, or if it's just back to yourself. What you were talking about in terms of meditation that goes all the way out your arms, could you take us on a little guided journey there, Judith? I would love it.
I will, and everyone can go on it. It's only just a few-minute meditation, but this is a practice that I talk about in Thriving as an Empath, and I use it every day, many times a day. This is my go-to practice. It's called the 3-minute heart meditation. And so if everybody can just take a few deep breaths, inhale, exhale, another deep inhale, the sacred prana of the breath. Exhale, stress, fear. Inhale, clarity, peacefulness. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, nothing to be. The search is over. You've reached your perfection. You are where you need to be at this moment. Let out a big, deep exhale. And then put your hand over your heart chakra, which is in the middle of the chest. And begin to picture something that you really love. It can be a sunset, can be an ocean, can be a child's face. Pick one image that makes you happy, keeping your hand resting over your heart chakra, and just feel that image. Feel the love, feel the mystery, the magic, the energy of happiness, of unconditional love, opening up in your chest. You might feel warmth. You might feel tingling. You might feel a little bliss, little burst of bliss there. The loving energy coming through your chest. Not forcing, just allowing it to be and feeling it move from your chest, down your arms, out the palms of your hand, and going exactly to who needs it. Going exactly to the person or situation that needs it the most. And you're not pushing or forcing, you're allowing this energy to flow. And breathing and enjoying the feeling in your own chest. It's an enjoyable, loving, warm, nurturing, beautiful feeling of heart. And this is a place you can return to again and again in your life, no matter what's happening, to calm and center yourself. And so if everyone can close your eyes and then open them and come back to our collective space with Lisa and I, fully present, fully in your body, reconnected.
That just helped everything quiet down around me, including probably a lot of the noisy thoughts that were going on, and just calmed everything down. Thank you. Wow. That's what that feels like.
You're so
I really
welcome.
think we should do that several times a day. Is just calm down and thank you.
We can give this
really
to
needed that.
ourselves. Yes, yes. But we can take control of our energy by opening up the heart. And it's a way of being self-compassionate. It's a way of empowering yourself as sensitive people to use that energy you sense to calm down, to have self-soothing techniques. It's so important to self-soothe during this time.
And the journaling is also a wonderful idea too, where you're talking about that in the Empath's Empowerment Journal that goes along with the book. It's a wonderful thing to do, is sit in this space now and journal through this experience. That's a great idea.
Writing is so therapeutic. Write about your empath self. The Empath Empowerment Journal is fun. It's writing down your fears and then how to let go of them. It's what are you absorbing in terms of energy and how not to do that. So it's very solution-oriented, fun, and it's a way to engage your heart and honor your empath self. Now more than ever, we need you. There's a saying in the Bible, the meek will inherit the earth. And the meek is translated to sensitive. The sensitive will inherit the earth. It's your empathy and sensitivity we need. And so during this time, I invite you to nurture them more than ever. And remember us. It's important to remember there are other people out there like you and who love and support you.
That is beautiful. We are needed more than ever. Empathy, as you say, is the medicine the world needs right now, is how to be empathetic to our leaders that have no idea what's happening, and how to be empathetic to people, even the virus. I thank you so much for that reminder. That is yes, it takes you out of survival and puts you into thrival. Is thrival a word? Into thriving.
Right, exactly.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for always being here for us to just give us this grounding voice and to give a voice to sensitive, empathic people. We have that, they go hand in hand. It's a beautiful thing to be empathic, and it's also an incredibly beautiful thing to be sensitive and to bring out the healing that we need right now. So thank you, Judith.
Yes,
you're just a blessing.
You're so
I'm so
very
glad
welcome.
to see you too. Virtual hug, okay? All right. Thank you. And you can check out Judith's book, which is wonderful as well, Thriving as an Empath. It's 365 days of self-care. You can look at different things. It's for sensitive people and different days and different techniques. So thank you so much, Judith. I am Lisa Garr, and until next time, I invite you to stay aware.